Welcome. So, how was my experience chasing the big boy? It was really good. I really loved every second of it. If I would have gone back, I would have done it a little differently though. But at the time, I didn't really know like how to chase and how to long-term chase trains because I only done short-term rail thing at the time. But here is one of my test shots right before Big Boy. This is only like a few days before Big Boy. It's 281 with the 100 livery. It was one of my test shots and one of my first shots with my tripod and my setup at the time. I wanted to test how it worked before I sent it to go with Big Boy. So here you go. Enjoy. So after that and a bunch of more test shots that you definitely did not come here to see, it was ready to go. So my first spot that I decided to go to was Stillwater Road. It's right on the border between New York and Pennsylvania. I picked it because it seemed quieter and it seemed like Big Boy would pass by really fast over there. And I think I made the right choice by doing that. So anyways, here is my first Big Boy shot. Enjoy.
Watch out. Watch your back.
How you doing, Deputy? Good, how are you? Good.
After that, I decided to go over to Pittston, not to catch Big Boy, but to catch Reading 2102, mainly to avoid the crowds on Route 11 because they were going to be absolutely mobbed. I was absolutely sure, and they were when I looked back at it, especially when 4014 went over the viaduct. I heard there were 20,000 people over there, and someone told me that some people camped out overnight at the viaduct for 4014. So that's why I decided to go over to Pittston and catch 2102. This was probably the most intense moment I've ever felt in my life, seeing Big Boy at speed for the first time. I will say that. The whistle was so much louder than I expected. I was so used to trains back at home that I just did not expect Big Boy's whistle to be so loud and so intense. And especially with the way Ed Dickens blew it, you could realize this was not any normal train. So anyways, after I got to Pittston, I talked to a few people. It was significantly less crowded than my first spot. My first spot actually had a police officer with it too to make sure no one got close to the tracks. But there were easily like 150 people on my first spot, while my second only had 20 because Big Boy didn't show up. I was the only like actual photographer there at the point. But anyways, here is my first 2102 catch in Pittston. Enjoy.
Are they going? Yeah.
after that, I decided to go take my lunch break, and when I was driving to go grab lunch in Montage Mountain, I actually drove right over 4014. I was stuck in traffic on a bridge, and 4014 went right under me. I couldn't get any shots, of course, because I was driving, which was unfortunate, but I saw a ton of people on the bridge. I think 2102 backed in, I think, right before, I think. That's just what I think. I did see they were side-by-side running. I regret not getting it at the point, but at that time, I was worried that there was going to be so many people by the side-by-side runs that it would be very difficult, if not impossible, for me to get my last spot in time. So I went to a slightly quieter spot, which this spot is Church Road, I think it was. But the only really problem is that it was hard for me to get a good angle, and because there were a bunch of cars and other people in the way, I did get a good shot. But however, at the very last second, I had to switch to my phone for Big Boy, because where my iPad was, someone was standing right in the way of my shot and almost blocked the entirety of it. So I switched to my phone and was able to get a decent shot from there. I got a good shot of running 2102 with the iPad as well, because half the people were there only for Big Boy. If I went back, I would have catched the side-by-side run, though. It's unfortunate that I didn't, but that is okay. And like I said, at the time, I didn't know how to long-term chase trains. I only knew how to short-term chase, and I kind of had to learn how to adapt to it. But now that I knew, I would have went to it, but that is okay. Anyways, here is both of my shots at my next spot, Church Avenue. Enjoy. after that, I went to my last spot of the day in Nesquehoning. My original plan in Nesquehoning was to get some more static footage of 4014 and 2102 side by side. But when I got to Nesquehoning, the spot where they were planning to pull next to each other, it was going to cost you $50 to park there, and there were cops there to prevent you from to prevent photographers from lining up over there. So it was just not justifiable. So I quickly pulled into a nearby gas station and researched like backup spots, and I found this crossing in downtown Nesquehoning, and it worked pretty well. I did find this really okay spot, even though it was incredibly backlit, to catch both of them coming in. I talked to this nice guy a lot, and then all of a sudden, to my surprise, 2102 came in first, but it was being towed in by two GP38s. The reason for that is because the crew worked 2102 so hard that it ran out of coal, so it couldn't really make it by itself the rest of the way to Nesquehoning. So I was a little surprised to see that. After that, 4014 came through. I had a really good shot, but unfortunately someone's hand was in half of my camera view. But it was in the other half of it. Unfortunately, I'm sorry about that. There wasn't really much I could do to prevent it. But that was not my hand, it was someone else's. I was holding a camera at the moment. But it shouldn't really impact how you see 4014 much. Anyways, here is 2102 being towed by the Jeeps, and 4014 both arriving into Nesquehoning. Enjoy.
Oh, diesels.
buds on that? Was there a bud in the ear?
After seeing both of those, I have family in the Poconos, so I stayed with them for the night. This is where part 1 ends, and part 2 will pick up tomorrow. Part 2 will feature both June 14th and July 1st. June 14th, I had to cut it short because you will see why in part 2. Long story short, I ended up getting sick and had to go home early. I will explain what happened in part 2. Anyways, thanks for tuning in. I will see you all in part 2.